For me, I guess a photograph is a photograph so long as you are the one taking every piece of it and it's still within the medium of photography.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
You are tuned into the creative frequency. Come with us as we explore the creative process with artists from all areas of the creative spectrum. The creative frequency starts now. Hey, welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the creative frequency. I'm your host, Kent Tarbox, and today I'd like to welcome Calen Fledderjohan. In this episode, we're going to have a discussion with Calen. We're going to talk about creativity. I'm going to ask him to share some of his experiences with his own creativity, with roadblocks, maybe imposter syndrome, the times he's been more creative, less creative, whatever he does to get in the groove, to do whatever he does and to create whatever he creates. And he's going to tell you what he does. So, Calen, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Kent, for having me. My name's Calen Fledderjohan, as Kent said. Um, I'm a photographer primarily. I started when I was about 9 years old. I got my first camera from my grandma and grandpa as a Christmas gift because I think they were tired of me stealing theirs. So it was this small little point and shoot, like 7 megapixel, camera. So it's come a long way since then. But started out, grew up on a farm. So my first subjects were cows, trees, anything that was accessible to me at 9 years old. And then that slowly morphed into more conceptual photography, and some portraits, which is when I started, I didn't think I would ever get into portraiture. And then that's something that I found a lot of joy in when I bring in the conceptual side of it. So that's primarily what I do. I'm a photographer.
Okay. And for everybody out there watching, listening, I hope there's somebody out there watching and listening. I've run up against Calen several times in some photo shows, and he's an exceptional photographer. And we are going to ask and hopefully provide some examples of his work once the show goes live, so you'll be able to see some of his work. I've seen it. I thought it was interesting. You do when you say conceptual, I've seen your work with Photoshop. Tell us a little bit about how you use that. Where do you use it all the time?
Okay. Yeah. So there's this term called composite photography, which I do some of that, but that wasn't how I started. The only formal Photoshop training I got was in high school. I took Photoshop 1, Photoshop 2. It was pretty elementary. There was like maybe 9 people in my class total. A lot of everything else is just self-taught, watching tutorials on YouTube, just playing within Photoshop. It's a fun thing to do. It's a good challenge. And I like the fact that once you kind of learn the tools of Photoshop, the whole thing is at your disposal. Once you learn a few things and you kind of figure out, okay, this is how we could do this. And there's like 10 different ways to do the same thing. And that's kind of the fun to it. Yeah. So when I got into more conceptual photography, I start with an idea or a premise, or I see inspiration, or somebody had something that sparked a thought. And sometimes you can't always do that in one shot. So that's when the composite photography comes in, where it's a series of shots compiled into one finished product. Yeah.
Okay.
You have anything to add, Kent?
Well, I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
And we're gonna come back to composite photography because I know you and I've had conversations in the past, and now we get a chance to put them on film and go on record. What you said, inspiration. Where do you? Is it walking down the street? Do you plan to be inspired? Do you walk around and look for it, or do things just hit you?
Yeah, so a little bit of all of that. When I go on walks a lot, which is one of my favorite things to do, and stuff really does spark. It sounds very cliche, but like there's something to be said for just walking and just being with your thoughts, and maybe music if you listen to that, and then let your mind kind of turn on ideas that it's had or things that it's seen in the past week or month or however long you've been thinking about something. And then that's when I get home, I kind of will jot in my notes app, like, okay, here's a concept, and then maybe I return to that week after week for a span of a couple of months, just kind of add into it and see how that could be done. And then when I feel like it's developed to a point where I can bring out my camera and start setting up the scene, that's when the photo starts being created.
Okay. Do you see inspiration from other photographers, from other works of art?
For sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So
Yeah.
I've got a couple of people I follow on Twitter. One is Kimberly. The spelling's a little different. She does like set designs, so conceptual, and has partnered with Adobe Photoshop in the past. Has been a huge inspiration for me. Andrew Scott, he's another one. Kind of like how would I describe what he does? Kind of breaks the fourth wall. He's like a not a photographer, but he'll kind of like interact his work with outside the frame. So, like, for example, he'll have like a photo of a child like playing baseball, okay? And then the glass will be shattered like as an illusion. Like, I think we talked about this.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
his work. Yes, I see,
Yeah.
like with pickaxes
Yes.
and
Yep.
rock birds flying out of the frame, and yeah, I have. Okay, yeah, I know who
Yeah.
you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
where it
wild
comes
stuff.
outside the frame. It's
Yes,
very, very creative stuff, very original.
yes, yes. I know who you're talking about now. When you reference the coming out of the frame, and we'll try to get some of those included into the notes so that other people can look up other
Yeah.
people's work. I guess I want to hit on it right now before I lose this thought. You and I have had a conversation in the past, and my background is photography. I finally got a photographer on the show. I've had painters and drawers and stuff, and I can draw stick figures. So it was
Yeah.
nice to get another photographer here. We've often asked, when does a photo stop being a photo and start becoming, I don't know if the term digital art or a composite, when does that transformation take place? Because, we all grew up, especially me. I'm plenty old enough to remember, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? There's nothing more photographic proof. That's not the case anymore today. So when does that transition happen?
I think we might differ on this, but I'm curious to hear your perspective as well. So I've never really put a thought into this, but we're going to go right here. For me, I guess a photograph is a photograph so long as you are the one taking every piece of it and it's still within the medium of photography. If you're utilizing things like if you're pulling in clip art or some kind of other thing, then it becomes, I think it moves more into the digital space,
Okay.
into more digital art. But if I'm, thinking of a piece conceptually and it's like, okay, I'm going to need more clouds in the background or some birds flying through or something like that, I'm going to go find a scene where I can get those pieces of this photo. And then in post, I'll add those into the overall shot. And so long as I've taken every photo and they're all photographs, I think that's a photograph.
That's interesting. That's the first time I've heard it explained that way. And I'm opening my mind to this more. And I've told the people who've watched this and heard me in the past, I come from a photojournalism background, which is very strict. And there are rules
Mhm.
that govern what you can and cannot do with a photograph. So it's been hard for me to break out of that. But I'm telling you that's a very good explanation. So the difference then, if I'm hearing you correctly, is you didn't go out and say, hey, AI, I need some really cool clouds, generate it for me. You went out, you found clouds, you photographed clouds, you incorporated your photograph into another photograph. Is that fair?
Yes, AI is no part of my work. I'm really,
Okay.
really trying to push back against this wave here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the AI thing, we'll get back together again. We'll do an hour on AI because it's scary in its own right. But I like that, Calen. I appreciate that aspect. I've not looked at it that way before. I'll
I
have to
think it's
take that into consideration.
I think it's interesting you bring in the photojournalism background that you have, and then and you talk about all the rules and the protocol that you have to follow for that specifically. But then when you look at photography as an art, it kind of strips those rules, those guidelines away, because art is notorious for not having rules. So then that kind of releases you from that box, and then the world's your oyster.
It is, and that's been part of my journey, part of my struggle, whatever, if you will, with creativity. That I really didn't delve into being a creative photographer until maybe just 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe a little more than that now because everything's either pre-COVID or post-COVID. It was
Yeah, yeah,
pre-COVID,
exactly.
so it's been a little bit longer. But I was getting burned out doing, the photojournalism thing for me was primarily sports.
Hmm.
And when you've done your 500th basketball game, they all look the same,
Yeah.
and I was getting ready to just walk away from it, and people are going to get tired of hearing this. My wife said, well, start shooting for yourself. And so I started, and it's funny because I started my creative journey doing trees,
Yeah,
old
yeah.
buildings, and
It's the
anybody
easiest
who's,
material. It's the
yeah,
easiest material. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, they don't move. They're there. They don't ask for payment, and you don't worry about making them look good. And you've seen a lot of my work. I do a lot of old abandoned buildings and structures and things, but I have ventured now into work. I've worked with a model or two in the past and trying to expand my creative side. I don't know if I'll ever get to the level of composite like you do because I just don't know if that's me. But the more
Sure.
I think
It's
about your explanation, I appreciate that, and I do appreciate your work for that.
Thank you.
I like
Yeah,
that.
I think this also kind of leads to another interesting conversation about photography in the broader art world maybe, and how that falls. Like, you know, what you like, you've entered enough shows, you know, sometimes your photograph is gonna be in an exhibition alongside paintings, drawings,
Hmm.
you know, sculptures. And as a judging perspective, which would be interesting to hear, how do you judge across mediums like that? And what usually happens is photography doesn't always make the cut, you know, in terms of
No.
awards and stuff, because the I don't know. Why would you say that is?
Well, I'm gonna answer that, and I guess part of this show, and I'm gonna have to expect this too. We may piss a few people off here and there. I don't know. You know, photography in the past, it took a long time for photography to even be accepted as an art form.
Yeah, it
Okay,
was very lowbrow. Yeah.
and although if you think about photography and you look at the history of it, we all have iconic photos. We all can nail. I grew up in the 70s, and I have the napalm girl coming out of
Yep.
Vietnam, the kid at Kent State that was shot by the National Guardsmen. I mean, these are iconic photos. We have a little bit older, we have the 9/11, the guy carrying that person out of the rubble. I mean, the photos I'm
Exactly.
talking about.
Yes. Yep. Everyone.
But they don't always come as art, and I appreciate that. I want to get a couple of the judges that have judged some of the shows that you and I have been
Hmm.
in, and I want to get them on here. And obviously, I want to talk about their art and their creative
Hmm.
process, but I want to get into their head and say,
Hmm.
how do you judge across mediums? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, that's like listening to a rock band, a country band, a rhythm and blues band, and then trying to judge who's got the best music.
Exactly. It all
Yeah,
takes a different skill set, and you're
exactly.
comparing things that aren't meant to be compared, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
apple, orange, banana. Right.
yep, exactly.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was hoping to get a little brother in arms here with some of the
Yeah.
photography stuff.
Yeah, and I entered a there was a show, it was like, the theme was masterworks, so it was like your take on like your modern take on a masterwork. So, like, the Mona Lisa was on there,
Okay.
American Gothic, how you interpret that modern day, okay? This was, like, right around COVID, so it was very interesting to see people's interpretations. And not a single photograph placed, and there was like I don't know how many awards, but not a single photograph placed honorable mention or anything. And I thought, you know, we have the harder task as photographers, because you have to create something from something that already exists. And a painter, you can go as far as your imagination can take you, and
Yeah.
your abilities and your skills, you know. And with a photographer, you can only create what has been created.
Yes.
So you can pull from what already exists, and it's limiting, but it's also very, like, challenging in a rewarding way, where you can kind of push yourself in ways that maybe other mediums don't or can't.
You're dead on. You should have been on the show I did previous, the one I just recorded yesterday, because we were talking to Jennifer Souders, and she's a
Mhm.
landscape artist, and she was talking about getting inspiration. Hang on a sec. Where she goes out and she'll see a scene, but over here's like this really cool maybe tree, or there's a building or something here. So she'll take photos of it and then bring it home and do a composite painting. And in landscape painting, that's an acceptable practice. Man, hey, I don't like this over here. I'll just move it.
Sure.
We can't do that. Building's a building.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure people are going to say, well, you can do things in Photoshop. Yeah, I guess we could. But you're right. We're photographing something that's there
Mhm.
and trying to maybe present it at an angle that someone hasn't looked at it before, give it a perspective.
Exactly.
I struggle with the fact that, and I'm going to really tell my age here. When I was in high school, having a Nikon 35 millimeter film camera was the equivalent of playing guitar in a band.
Okay.
Okay. I couldn't play guitar. I love music, but I couldn't play guitar, but I had a camera,
Mhm.
and you were kind of cool because they were expensive. Not everybody had one. You had to know what you were doing, and you kind of got to stand out. Well, everybody has a camera today.
Exactly.
Everybody walks around
At
with their
their
phone.
fingertips. Yep,
Yep.
and the smartphones are just as good as digital cameras in a lot of respects.
They are.
Yeah,
They are.
they've
I
come a
I
long
I
way.
can't do a football game with one, but
Sure.
I've seen remarkable iPhone photos. in smartphone photos. Do you think that that has diminished the craft a little bit, that there's so much clutter that it's hard to determine and distinguish what's a good photograph, make it harder for our work to stand out?
Interesting. Okay. I think anybody can take a good photograph, but then you got to look at their portfolio. Are they able to do that several times? Do they have the portfolio to back that up? I mean, people can get lucky, of course, you can snap a shot, right time, right place, but can you do that? Can you stand up to peers who are also doing that? Yeah, I don't think it diminishes from that in that respect because there's still a different skill set that's required. Because okay, everybody has a smartphone. Does everybody know how to use the aperture, the shutter speed, make adjustments in it?
Yeah.
So that's gonna, that's the kind of the difference, I guess.
And I'm going to tell you 99% of the population doesn't.
Yeah.
They just click, 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 and
Yep.
and here we go again. I'm probably going to tick somebody off. You got 400 pictures of your cat. Cool. Okay.
Hmm.
Great. It's still a cat. And it's funny. I've heard that even being a sports photographer, there are some people, they're like, I get it both ways. Well, how hard can that be? Well, here's my cat. You try it. It's like a Pollock. If you go to a museum and you see a Pollock, and everybody thinks, oh, I could do that. I can throw paint on a canvas and
Yep.
splash.
Yep. Yep.
Well, why haven't you? Or
That's one of my favorite responses. It's
try
like,
it.
okay, well then do it. Why
Right.
didn't you do it? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Go ahead. Knock yourself out. Let me know how it works.
Yeah.
And you're right. I've stood beside people on the sidelines. Dad with a camera or mom with a camera, and they will get a shot. Can they reproduce it? I have to be consistent.
Yep. You have
I
a
have to
career.
produce.
Over your career, you have to be
Yes.
able to pull those shots. Exactly.
And I've shot for the Blade, I've shot for the Courier, I've shot for publications, and they're expecting a product. So again, we're really drifting here. This is great. I love
Well, hey,
this.
photographer to photographer, we got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, because I got another painter coming up on Monday.
Yeah,
No,
we gotta cover a lot of ground.
got to band together here. So you said you find you take your walks and things and that, and you look at other work and that. Are there any other areas of inspiration, or is it enough? Is just the world your inspiration?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, also just thinking, just always thinking about something that will do things, human experiences that will, inspire you in ways. Nature, always my go-to, walks through nature. And it really does generate something because you're kind of alone. You're just with your thoughts. There's no of these other distractions, your work, your home life, any of that. I think that's the best way to just start generating ideas. You may not like fully develop them, but you can get sparks. And then that's what your day-to-day task is, to figure out what those sparks can be.
Okay. And he may have to share this photo because I'm going to reference it, and it's going to maybe be a bit of an inside joke, so I apologize. Where in nature did you get inspired for deconstructing Barbie?
Okay, actually, it was a movie theater, not nature.
Okay.
No, I watched the Barbie movie and I was like, this is like, it was just very creatively done. And it was
Okay.
interesting because it towed the line between, like, obviously it was a silly movie about,
Mhm.
toys coming to life, but it also was like talking about aging and how women are viewed in society and stuff. I was like, oh, this is very interesting. So then it kind of got me turning, and I've seen works where people will like there's music videos out there where like there's a pile of women who are Barbies and their like legs are just, over here and they're over
Mhm.
there. And it was like it got wheels turning. It's like, this is interesting and something I could maybe do. And I've had this thought, and then probably a couple years before the Barbie movie came out. And then I was like, well, now I know what the subject is going to be. It's going to be Barbie. And that was like the marketing Barbie that they did for the movie. It was in the white striped dress and
Right.
stuff. So I was
Right.
like, okay, we can match that. Then we did.
So for the benefit of maybe anybody who's just listening to this and may not get a chance to see it, and I'm going to ask Calen if he doesn't mind sharing that photo with us.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to try to explain it again. It was a picture, and I believe it was, you said it was your sister was the model.
Yes. Yep.
But at the end of the day, there's all these pink packing pellets, and she's like laying on the floor, and different parts of her are coming out of like cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
Is that probably the best way to explain it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
and I looked at it and I'm like, okay, that's just trip. And the other question I had, aside from the creativity, was what have you done with all the pink pellets? And apparently you still own them, all the packing pellets.
Surprisingly, I do not own them anymore. They
Okay.
are
The
not
last
sitting
time
in
we
my
talked, you
basement
still had
anymore.
them. Okay.
Yeah, yep, they're gone now, which is good. They found a new home, and
Okay.
I'm happy to get rid of them because that was about 2 large boxes full of packing peanuts.
Packing peanuts. So if you needed any and you needed to get a hold of Calen, they're gone.
You missed your chance.
You missed your chance. Yeah, I hope, like I said, I hope people get a chance to see that. And
And,
any of
like
your other work you want to share is just um
yeah, and, like, something with the Barbie, like, did I think it was gonna place? No. Was it a fun thing creatively to, like, challenge myself to do that? Absolutely. Is it fun to view? I hope so, because it, like, it pushes, what can we do as photographers that you haven't seen, you know? So it's just fun, and sometimes things are just for yourself, and that's, the best art, I think.
we're going to get into roadblocks here in a second, but you just brought up something and I want to ask, do you ever run into where I do where it's like it's all been done,
Oh, yeah.
right? It's all been done. And then okay, so and when I think I'm onto something original, I ran around with one of the models and we had a black chair and just this little cheap wooden chair and we ran around and I think you've seen a couple of the pieces. And we just sat her in the most strange places that you'd ever see a black chair. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. That's kind of unique. And then talking to one of the other artists up in the Jones building, they said, oh, yeah, that's these two guys in New York traveled the world with a red couch and took a picture all over the world of them sitting on a red couch. I'm like, of course they did,
Of
you
course they
know,
did. Yeah,
right? Because everything's been done.
yeah.
And that's an interesting challenge in itself as a photographer. Because again,
Mhm.
we're just trying to take what's out there in the world.
Yes.
We can't just gin something up out of our minds.
Yeah. And how many trillions of photos have already been taken? More than
Exactly.
paintings, more than anything else, you know?
Exactly. And again, to all the other artists out there and all the other mediums, we're not taking anything away from you.
No, I respect all of you. Like, we
I
all
do.
offer
Yeah,
different things. Yeah,
we
totally.
do.
This is
We
just
do.
I'm speaking from my own experience.
We do. Oh yeah, it's an interesting take. You run into some roadblocks sometimes, do you?
Yeah.
What are they? Maybe if you
Yeah.
wouldn't mind sharing.
One of them you just touched on, the fact that it's already been done, and you feel like, "What do I have to offer to this anymore?" You
Hmm.
know? There was a period, in college where I didn't pick up a camera for probably a year, which was the longest I've ever not since I started when I was 9 years old. And it was like, it wasn't a great mental period in my life. But then the next year came. It was my New Year's resolution the next year to take one photo every single day. It like
Hmm.
didn't have to be great just to get me creating again. And I did
Hmm.
it all 365 days. And it was something that I look forward to every day. Sometimes it was stressful, it's like getting in the evening and you're like, I haven't gotten a photo today. So then you get creative. How can
Right.
you get something like that? And it got me back into loving this again, and I have a lot of appreciation for people who feel like we feel it's already been done, but still continue to add their voice to it, because sometimes, like you said, it's like, "What do I have to offer this that hasn't already been offered?"
You know, I thought about that too, and I guess the one thing when I think about that is, then I ask myself, oh, who am I really doing it for? And really, I'm doing it for me.
Mhm.
And it took me a while to get comfortable with that. You try to do the show thing and stuff because you're looking for validation. You want to, and I learned that shows can kind of be BS because, and you saw it. Uh, I took best of show first time ever. Nobody more shocked than me with a photo that had been juried out of a previous show.
Exactly. Yeah.
You tell me, right?
Yeah.
But I'm reaching that point now, and I'm pretty comfortable with it. That I'm going to take it, make it, whatever, put it out there. You like it, you like it. You don't, you don't.
Exactly.
I can't make you do it, but I'm comfortable with it and I enjoy doing it. I like the thing where the one picture a day.
Mhm.
I've talked to some other people that are struggling and I've done things and I've tried this myself. We have digital. You shoot digital, I shoot digital.
Mhm.
Um the film thing, hey, I've been there, done that. You want to get into film, hey, knock yourself out, shoot film. Great. But I do sometimes go out and say, okay, I have a 36 exposure digital camera.
Mhm.
I take 36. That's it. No chimping, no deleting. So I treat it like a film cap for an exercise to not just spray and pray.
Yep. Yep. We've all been guilty of that. Yeah.
Oh, of course, but not as guilty as some. I don't know if you've heard this, and if anybody out there wants to comment on this, I'd love it if they put something in the comment section. When you go out and say on a 2-3 hour walkabout, whatever it is you do to shoot, how do you shoot 3, 4, 5,000 images? I've seen people say that because they've asked on how do you cull through your images, and I'm like, well, how many do you shoot? Oh, after 2 hours, I'll come back with like 3,000. What are you shooting?
Yeah. I mean, I've done like 5,000 in a span of 2 weeks, like
Right.
on a trip and stuff. And then because that is you kind of got to make the most of it while you're there because you're not going to be coming back anytime soon. So it's like
Certainly.
we've got to, yeah, yeah. But in a couple hours, that is a lot of storage space for
It
one.
is.
And yeah,
And listen, I can tell you honestly, I shoot I'm going to do I got a soccer season starts Saturday. And I'll come home from that game and I'll have 800-900 images maybe. I think that's a lot. But that's soccer, it's sports. And even out of that I'm going to get 4 or 5 that
yeah,
are publishable.
yep,
So I find that interesting that we have as creatives, I think we sometimes have to, I don't know if the term is train ourselves, but go through these exercises when we hit these roadblocks
mhm.
and kind of take a minute and okay, I got to think about this again. And you said you stopped for a year. I go through. Do you go through spurts? I
Oh yeah,
mean, yeah.
oh yeah. In terms of like output, for sure. There'll be times when it's like 2 years ago, I did 5 photos that I was really proud of in the span of, like, 2 weeks.
Hmm.
That's never happened for me. Like, that was a lot to do that because, I mean, every piece is a lot, it's not just, like, 5 snaps, and it was 5 complete pieces that to this day are still some of my favorite works,
Right.
and that's never happened since. So it definitely it comes and it goes. What sparked that? I couldn't tell you, but I'm glad it did. I'm glad that it was here and I took advantage of that spark while it was.
And I think we need to share too. We both have day jobs.
Mhm.
It's not like we get to. I'm getting closer to not having a day job. I get to retire in 8 months.
That's exciting.
It is. It is. It just means I'm old. Okay. But I'll have a little more of an opportunity to do things more on my time. But and like you, even my photojournalism, I'm a contractor. I don't work full time in photojournalism. I have a full time day job, and then I run around and do the photojournalist thing. And then I try to mix in the creativity. I'm doing this. This is another creative outlet, a creative aspect. And I think sometimes with creatives, I don't think our minds ever stop.
No.
And some
Like, we might not know how to go about whatever we're thinking, but it doesn't mean that it's not there. Like, we don't
right,
always know, like, we come up with an idea or a spot we wanna go to, okay, that's one thing. You don't always execute it, but like you said, it's always you're always thinking about something like, "What if this?" Then we
right.
could do that, and it is all-consuming at some points, yeah.
The most terrifying statement that I can make to my wife of 40 years is, "Hey, I've been thinking." And when she hears that, it's we're playing defense. She's because
Yep.
she's like, "Oh, no. What? Oh god, what are we
What did he
doing now,
dream up?
right?
Yep.
What's he thinking about now? What's he doing now?" Because I have my squirrel moments but I always kind of come back to photography. I thought maybe I want to play in video and I tried that. I'm not a videographer. And then this idea came up. So here we are trying this. And I think I'm maybe onto something here. Speaking of side gigs, do you have other creative outlets in your life aside from photography?
I dabble in poetry. I've never published anything, but it's something I write, but also, like, I think it goes so well with photography because sometimes I'll shoot a photo and it will spark something or the inverse of that, and I'll see something and then the words start coming and then it's like, this could be, a photograph, and then the wheels get turning that way. But I think the 2 of them lend themselves. I think you see a lot of poet photographers. I don't know why that is, but I think there's a lot of overlap.
Okay. Have you ever taken an image and then combined the written word to it and put it together as one?
Yeah. Yeah, successfully in a way I'm proud of? No, but I've tried, and we keep trying, that's, like,
Yeah,
what we
sure.
do. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, one of the hard things to explain to younger people sometimes, and I'm not insinuating you're younger, but I mean people that are just
I mean, I'll take
starting.
it. I'll take it.
Okay, it's just starting. Everybody's young to me now, right?
Uh,
I have a dentist. I think I have T-shirts older than my dentist. But it's don't and just start and just do it and just let it out. Just let it go and just run with it and see what happens. But you're
yep.
going to fail.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
No. I failed more than I've succeeded. That's
Yes.
how you get to those revelations. You have to
Yeah.
go through that to see. You got to weed out all the wrong attempts.
You do. And I'm tied into a lot of sports. I like sports, and I've always used the analogy with a lot of people is, what you're seeing on Sunday afternoon on a football field or on a basketball court or something. They didn't wake up that morning and decide to go play a football game. They make it look easy because they do it every day. They
Hmm.
practice their craft. And I am being creative is no different. I mean,
No.
we practice our craft and we make mistakes, we get better, we hit roadblocks. Yeah, we find
Yep.
ways to work around it.
Yeah, it's a muscle, and you like any muscle, you have to exercise it. Yeah.
Yeah. You hear a lot about in creatives that there's some negative aspects to this. Um, Imposter syndrome comes up. I don't know if I like that term. It's a term that everybody seems to.
Yeah.
It's self-doubt, but I think we all have it. And I don't know if it's always such a bad thing. I think what's your take on that?
Yeah. I think it depends how you internalize it. Like for me, when I started out, I started doing shows like seriously when I was probably 15 years old. And like as you can imagine, I was the youngest kid at those shows.
Sure.
I mean, it was like people I could be their grandkid.
Yeah.
And obviously, not the most welcoming bunch because they're like, "Oh, this kid probably, did an art project and wants to show it off at this," and they've been doing this 50 years.
Right.
So there was some of that you had to work through, and then like you start winning shows every once in a while, and then they kind of take you a little bit more seriously. But like to put it in perspective, I started when I was 9 years old. I'm almost 30, so like I've been doing this 2/3 of my life. So when you look at it like that, it's not like I just walked on the scene yesterday.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's I got an early start and just kind of have stuck with it and kind of
Right.
figured out what my style is and still figuring it out.
I think yeah, because I'm similar. I had a camera in high school and that probably like my freshman year maybe. And I was fortunate in my high school. We had a dark room. So I learned how to develop and play in there. And listen, I'm going to be honest, when you're a junior in high school and they pull you out of math class, which I was terrible at, and say, would you go take pictures of cheerleaders? Yeah.
Yeah, no
Okay.
brainer.
Yeah. I think, I get to roam the halls. Um, you know, I probably should have been in class, but there was something there. And I don't know if that time, if I thought I was being creative. I don't know if I knew that about myself. I just knew that having a camera in my hand felt right. And I've since learned that's I've had other people say, the first time I picked up a guitar or the first
Mhm.
time I heard someone sing or the first time I picked up a paintbrush, you just knew
It clicks.
it
Something
clicks,
clicks. Yep.
right?
Yep.
Whatever that something is, for some people, maybe it's riding a horse, maybe it's riding a bicycle long distances or something. And I guess if I do anything with this and if I can get it out to anybody, if you get that feeling, run with it. And you're going to run into doubt. Of course you are. I've looked at and I steal shamelessly from other photojournalists. I look at their work and I see how they're maybe approaching a football game or basketball game. And I know that sounds mundane, but they have different perspectives and different hands. Oh, I never thought about looking at it that way.
Yeah.
Again, so
I wouldn't call
inspiration
it
comes.
stealing. I would just call it being inspired. But
It is.
yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We talk about stealing shamelessly. And I'll be the first one when I see them. And a lot of times I'm referencing some of the photographers from the Blade that are very talented. And
Mhm.
I tell them when I see them, hey, Becca, wow, I saw your shot. You're great. And I tried that and I'm no good at it. How'd you do it?
Yeah. And like that's an honor to hear somebody say that to you, like that's such a compliment when people want to do,
Right.
take inspiration from your work. Yeah.
Right. And I think you and I've talked too that you can walk into the Findlay Art League, and I'm going to try to plug them every show, that we see things hanging on the walls and we know who they are.
Yeah.
We've been around this enough. We know, I know your style. I don't have to see the tombstone underneath the picture to know, hey, that's Calen's work. I know that's Calen's work because it stands out because you have a distinct style. and or it's, and a lot of times, and I'm going to tell you flat out, it is a step above a lot of the work that comes in, and it's always interesting to see that. This has been great. I love talking to another photographer.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess I hate to cut it down, but I don't want to keep going on and on and on because we could do this
We
forever.
could. We definitely could.
And there may be follow-up shows. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to get on a topic, and maybe we'll discuss AI or something in the future, and I'll do a little more research on it. And that, if you were gonna look at somebody just starting their creative journey, what would you tell them? What advice would you pass
Mm,
on in your wise 30 years here?
yeah. I would think, what would I want somebody have told me when I was, like, just starting out?
Hmm.
Probably just become obsessed with it. Like, pick whatever that thing is, whatever your lane is, and just obsess over it, and, like, do it because you love it, and just keep doing it even when you don't feel like doing it sometimes, because over the arc of time, you're gonna be grateful that you stuck with it. Because it's
Hmm.
like, there's nothing more fulfilling to me than art. Like, it's when you get that shot and, like, you feel it, like, you feel like, "I did that, I created this," and it scratches an itch that we all have.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Dude, and in closing here too, and were you supported?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't understand it.
Right.
Like, nobody in my family is artistic, they don't understand it, but they have always supported, which is it makes a difference. Yeah.
Oh, I wholeheartedly, yes. I've never, we have two kids, and I never pushed them into anything, but I allowed them to explore everything. And our son likes to write. He's a writer now. Our daughter is actually a photographer as well, on the side like me, because anybody out there who's a creative knows that if you're trying to make a living as a photographer,
It's hard.
it's hard.
It's hard.
It's really hard. Or a painter, or anyone out there in the
Yeah.
creative world. My gosh, more power to all of us if we could do it full time.
Yeah.
But
That could be a whole 'nother episode just
we
talking
could,
about
we
that.
could.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
may have just found a co-host, and together we can get two photographers and go out and beat up the art world.
No, no, kudos to all of them. I truly do respect every medium. I just speak to this one because it's my lived
Oh yeah.
experience, but I have so much envy because I can't paint, I cannot draw, I cannot blend colors, I can see something and want to do that and appreciate it, but I don't have that talent.
Right. My studio up in the Jones building, I'll walk down every now and then, and one of the artists up there, AMs, I just like to walk in there and just look and see what she's done today.
Yeah,
And I just marvel. It's like, wow, okay, sure, cool. She's
yeah.
like, oh yeah, I did that this morning. Okay.
Just how
Yeah.
she starts her day,
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't do that if I spent my whole life trying to learn it, I
No,
just don't have
no.
that.
But I do appreciate that everybody can share. And that's what I want to create here. Calen, listen, this has been wonderful. I thank you
Really
for
enjoyed
your
it.
openness. Thank you. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to say?
No,
Okay,
I don't think so.
good. I'm
I
getting
came out
slight.
open-minded, I like the conversation.
Yeah,
I
that's
think we
all I want to
covered a
do here.
lot.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just want to have conversations. I have a bit of an outline to keep me on track, but no. And hopefully other people can take experience from us and apply it and pass it on to others.
Yeah, I can't wait to listen to the other episodes and kinda get other people's perspective on
Yeah.
creativity
Yeah.
and hopefully be inspired, that's the goal of all this.
It is. It is. And it never changes. It just keeps going and going and going. So again, hey everybody, thank you. Again, thanks to my guest Calen, and we look forward to having more conversations with more artists in the future. So I want to say thank you, and till the next episode.
Thanks, Kent.
Thank you for tuning in to The Creative Frequency. You know what to do. Like, follow, and subscribe. Then join us again for the next episode of The Creative Frequency.